Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Need Some Introduction. In today's episode, primarily, we'll be breaking down the latest episode of Industry, the premiere of the fourth season, PayPal or Bukkake. That's right. That's the title of the episode. Joining me for this conversation is Darren. How you doing, Darren?
I'm doing pretty good, Victor. Yes, I'm very excited to talk about Industry now that it is back with a vengeance.
Yes, I have many things to say about this episode, not all complimentary, and I really wanted to get your feel for it because we'll save it for the conversation. But I'll just say that it may not be the show; it may just be me being away for the show for this long. It took me a while to get into the groove of the show, but I'll tell you, there's a particular moment in the episode where it started working for me again, and I wonder if you have a similar experience.
Okay, yeah, looking forward to it.
And it wasn't the strap-on scene, just to be clear.
That's immediately what I thought of. As soon as you saw that, you're like, yeah, I'm on board.
Before that, I was just curious to catch up on any things that you might have been watching because I had quite a week of watching, and I have some recommendations in this batch as well. So my watch week began, Darren, last week. I got to see a preview of the movie Primate that opened this weekend, but I got to see it all the way earlier on Monday, actually 5 days before it premiered. And didn't love this movie, but I do want to shout it out because I don't know much about this director. I thought it was very well made. I thought that the plot, once all the pieces were in place, the movie went on a little too long for me. And it was a little slow. I feel like they were padding out what was there, but effective and the performances are very good. It's very stylishly made, impressive on a very small budget. And the kills are truly gnarly and mean-spirited. So if that appeals to you, it does deliver on that promise. But I thought it was fine. I think if if you like these type of high concept horror films, it'll probably work very well for you. For me, it was just okay.
Yeah, it's funny that you say it's too long. I saw it was under 90 minutes.
Yes, that's why when I say it's too long, I feel like they're padding it out to 90 minutes. Like the kills are very cool. But once you get the setup in place, the film really needs to pad out its time. And I really felt it. Even at a relatively short runtime, I think if they had shaved off another 10 or 15 minutes, it would have been, for me, a more satisfying film. But I still want to shout it out. Cheap horror movie, has some good thrills in it, has some clever concepts, really solidly well made, really looks terrific, very stylish. I'm curious. I'll check out what this guy does next for sure.
Yeah, people love this style of movie because you know exactly what you're going to get. So hopefully it does well. I assume it's going to do well if it's a low budget horror and you know exactly, if it's called Primate, you know what's going to happen. And yeah, people are mad for that.
Yeah, it looks like it'll probably make, word of mouth is decent and the reviews are decent as well. It looks like it'll probably make at least 30 in the US and open well overseas as well. So for a movie that costs a few $1 million, if this makes 50 or 60 million, that's obviously a huge success. So
yeah. Great work from the director. Well done.
The next thing I want to mention is, and this is a recommendation that you might want to check in. This is for the entire audience, by the way. I recommend this to everybody, but something you may want to watch with your wife. So my wife and I have been watching The Pit, obviously, and between the seasons of The Pit, we were binging it and we finished season 1, and then we were looking for something else to watch. And multiple times, listeners of this podcast have emailed me, and when I've asked for recommendations, and they've told me I should watch Drops of God on Apple TV. And I had never watched it, but I'd heard good things about it. And then I knew a second season was coming. I thought it was coming last summer. So then I was waiting until the season came. Well, long story short, it premieres next week. The second season is finally coming. And one last thing, we had some friends from New York come over, hadn't seen them in about a year. And we were all hanging out. We ordered Thai food and we're just talking. And two different sets of folks that came for the visit were like, I just finished watching Drops of God. So I'm like, all right. Sometimes you just need one more nudge. I'm like, we're going to watch this. And my wife and I started watching it last week, and we're about halfway through the season. We're enjoying it, but it's something we could watch with everybody. We watch it. My daughter watches it along with us. My mother will stop by and we'll just catch her up on what happened, and she'll watch as well. And if you don't know anything about this, Darren, have you watched it before I jump into that?
I have not watched it. I haven't even heard of it. So yeah, very interesting to hear what you think about it.
Okay, it's a manga adaptation, believe it or not. Although it not what you would expect from a manga adaptation at all. Although it was very popular in Japan, and it has been partially relocated to France as well. And the storyline is of this French girl who is estranged from her father. He is the world-renowned wine expert of all wine experts that wrote like a guide to wine around the world and has the biggest collection of wine in the world. And he gets a phone call. She's completely estranged from him, has not talked to him in 10 years. And he says, I'm dying. And the mother tells her, don't believe him. He's manipulating you. But she gets on a private jet, flies out to Japan, where he's been living for a decade or so now. And when she lands, finds out he has died. And then what it turns out is that he also had a student in his class, this Japanese boy, not a boy, he's in his 20s, that was one of his most esteemed students. And he is going to give his entire wine collection worth $150 million to whoever wins the competition between the two of them. And they get 3 challenges. And the show is so cleverly done. First of all, it feels like a movie, not like a TV show. The opening minutes of this movie are just this very evocative, this foggy, a vineyard in France, and the camera just roaming through the vineyard, seeing the grapes. And then you see a girl, like a young girl, and then this hand comes down on the back of her head. And it's this memory she's having of her and her father when she was younger. And they were very close when she was younger, but then something happened that broke them up. And the story then goes back and forward in time, and there's multiple mysteries as to what's happening in the past, what actually happened. Like the mother at first seems like vindictive and very one-dimensional, and then as time goes by, you realize that she has her own backstory, and the story unfolds in this really interesting way. And I was telling my wife, I was so impressed at the multiple hooks that the show engages in every single episode. Like in the very first episode, we discover this world of wine. And if you have any appreciation for wine at all, or even if you don't, it'll make you appreciate wine more. It teaches you how to taste wine, how these sommeliers actually work. And then in the next hook, we then travel to Japan. And then there's this whole other layer of what the mystery is and how he knows this boy and what their relationship might be. And then the relationship he has with his family, who's like this wealthy Japanese family. And they see these French people coming in as like interlopers and disrupting things there. And then like there's other mysteries that unwrap. The competition itself is very cool. Like it's like watching Top Chef or something, but with sommeliers. And then that becomes another hook. And then there's multiple competitions. But then in the 4th episode, which is the last one we watched, we flash back and we saw what happened the year that, the last year that he saw his daughter and what was happening back in Japan. And then we start seeing these secret lives that all these people had. And we were so wrapped in the backstory that when they jumped back to present time, we're like, oh yeah, these people. We were so sucked in to the drama of years previous. Anyway, we're only halfway through. And like I said, season 2 is coming next week. And we love this show. And it looks incredible. It makes you want to eat French food and drink these expensive wines. And it photographed like incredible cinematography. Like really, Tokyo looks incredible. France looks incredible. And apparently in the next episode, they're going to Italy. And I've heard raves about how beautiful the Italian countryside looks in this as well. So anyway, for so many reasons, this is so sumptuous. And it's fantastic. It's in English, French, and Japanese, by the way. So, but you have to read subtitles, but it is mostly in English.
Yeah, subtitles I've got no problem with. That's fine. Always got subtitles on anyway.
Right, same here.
To see how the script is written. Yeah, great recommendation. That sounds very cool. Those people that are into wine, they are very into wine, aren't they?
Yes, and it's not snobby at all. It's like they're talking about how like the grape is like the earth, right? It's like a history of the place where it comes from. And it really makes you appreciate why people are obsessed with wine. Yeah, and just incredible to look at. So check that out. We'll probably I will certainly be watching it here, and maybe when on those episodes of The Pit, speaking of which, I've been covering with my wife, we'll probably cover both shows in our episodes. We'll probably continue to have those episodes, by the way.
And how's your wife enjoying being a co-host on the podcast?
Oh, I joked with you about it, that like she's actually listening to the podcast now. I've heard her multiple times listening to herself on the podcast. See, I finally got her to listen to the podcast. That's how you do it.
Well, that's what's got me watching The Pit. So yeah,
There
it's
you go.
great to hear you guys and actually hear an expert talk about it.
Right. And I did want to bring her on for that very reason. Part of my enjoyment of the show itself, The Pit, is I like when they're doing a differential and she shouts out what the diagnosis is before they do.
That's so funny. Yeah, I was watching it last night, and some of the injury detail they have on that is quite confronting. So
Sure.
yeah, that's something I need to get over while watching it.
It's stunning. Yeah, stunning. I think I mentioned this on that episode, but my mom was there when they cracked the chest open, and she'd had open heart surgery about a decade ago. And she's uncomfortable. She I could tell she had to walk out of the room and was pretending to be busy doing something else. She's does not want to see someone's chest get cracked open on the show, especially a very grotesque, very graphic representation of it. Very realistic. My wife was that's exactly what it looks like, basically.
Yeah, it's a little bit more realistic than I remember ER.
I think so, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this week was crazy packed. I also watched His and Hers. I won't go into it. I don't recommend it. It's got a crazy, I'll just briefly, I think I have to discuss it with Sona because the reason I watched it was we were going to discuss it on the show. And then I told her, don't finish it because it has such a silly twist at the end that for me, for some people it might work, but I don't want to spoil anything, but I don't think the trip is worth it. So, but it is something that I'll probably be discussing with Sona later this week. And then of course, all the wildcard games, the NFL games, and The Night Manager, which I've been watching now, which I'd seen a couple of the first 2 episodes because it was available on the BBC, but now all first 3 episodes available on Amazon Prime, and still have not watched those, even though Sona and I will be discussing it in a day or so, because with all the NBA is now in full effect and the NFL playoffs and all these TV shows premiering this week. The Golden Globes were last night. I just caught up with just watching clips of it because I didn't have time to actually watch it.
All I saw was Rose Byrne took home a statue. So, yeah, right behind her for going for the big one. So that's great for her.
I loved her acceptance speech where she talks about how her husband, I didn't even realize she was married to Bobby Cannavale, that he did not come to the awards ceremony because he was in New Jersey buying a lizard with his son.
Of course he was.
That's the excuse you need. I can't make it to California, honey. We got to go buy a lizard. Oh, and of course, on the podcast, Sona and I will be discussing Hijack later this week and probably some of these other things I've brought up along the way. And Darren, it doesn't end beyond, of course, continuing to discuss industry. This weekend, a Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Teyana Taylor, who just won an a Golden Globe last night, in a crime thriller on Netflix called The Rip. This is directed and written by Joe Carnahan, which I've enjoyed most of his films, honestly. Also features Kyle Chandler and Stephen Yeun. So quite a stacked cast in this movie.
Love Stephen Yeun. Last time I saw him was in that mini series called Beef, which was one of my favorite things that I watched that year.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And we're getting another season of that this year too, with another cast.
Is that right?
With a different cast. It's an anthology
amazing.
now.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. We loved watching that. Well, The Rip sounds really good, apart from it being a Netflix film. So
yes.
I'm going to lower my expectations just a little bit, but I love seeing Matt Damon and Ben Affleck together. So yeah, looking forward to that.
It looks like that Tom Hardy Netflix movie from last year, but good.
Yeah, right.
Oh, but of course, Darren, can't bury the lead. Also opening this weekend is 28 years later, Bone Temple.
I did see the trailer for this, and it did not show if the main alpha was wearing pants or not. I've got a hot tip that he is wearing pants.
Yes, I've seen stills, and he's wearing pants. Yes, he is.
Wow, yeah, that's half a star off for that immediately. Yeah, it's been getting good reviews, I think. So I don't know. Here, no other choice premieres this week. So all my attention is going to be focused on trying to watch that in the cinema. But yeah, Bone Temple will be a close second, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to try to see it this weekend and maybe do a review somewhere. As everybody knows from listening to my review, wasn't a huge fan. And I thought that the last one was overrated, but very curious given the reviews for this one, that saying that the film goes in a different direction, has a different tone, and then it kind of expands the mythology. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see if it's an improvement on the last one. But hey, getting raves for this one, everybody gave raves to the last one, and I had some pretty mixed opinions about that.
Yeah, sure. It was super interesting, the last one. And with a new director this time, it should be a different movie, you'd think.
Yeah, I'm glad that hearing that she seems to have a very different style. I liked hearing that it wasn't just bringing somebody in between the Danny Boyle films to imitate his style, like doing something different, which I do appreciate. And I'm curious to see if we do get that third film. It has not been greenlit yet, but you think about the first one was modestly successful. All the tracking here for the box office this weekend is that it's going to open about half as big as the last one. So if it makes half as much, I don't know if it even breaks even. And are they going to make a third one? I don't know. They're pushing that hard, especially that Cillian Murphy's going to come back for the next one. So, well, we'll see. We'll see. I just hope
it
it's good.
feels so soon after the last one. It feels like we could have waited a little bit longer. But
28 weeks later, they had to hit that 28 weeks later thing.
Yeah.
Okay, with that out of the way, let's talk about this episode of Industry. Before we talk about it at all, what's your relationship with the show? Like, why are you a big fan of it? I know we've discussed it off mic and even occasionally on mic, but what's your experience of watching the show? When did you start watching it? Did you watch it in real time or did you come to it later?
I think I watched the first season. So we had this streaming service called Binge, and it had Succession on it. I think it had Euphoria, and Industry was pitched as a cross between Succession and Euphoria. I finished both those series and I went, let's jump into this. Let's see what this is all about. I really loved the setting in London. It was very different from a lot of other, it's a bit different than American movies set in New York or LA. So I liked the new setting. And I just loved the blend of music and sex and this financial industry world with all its jargon that you pretend like you're following, but you don't really need to follow because it's all about power and using other people. It's like Succession, in which you're not sure that you should be behind these people and their motivations, but you just love watching them do what they do. So yeah, watch the first season and then smash the second as soon as it came out. And then I think I kept following it throughout the years. So I was on board from the beginning, and each season has been quite different. Different characters have come to the fore, other characters have been sidelined. And spoiler alert, I really, really enjoyed this season 4 premiere. It has everything that you want from this show in the first episode. And yeah, all about it.
I think I'm a little less enthusiastic, although, like I said, we can break it down and I'll get into where I started to engage with it more. A couple of things I think, as far as my experience of watching it, similar to you, Lena Dunham actually was the director of the pilot episode of season 1. And I'd heard really complimentary things about the way she directed that episode. I was a fan of her as a director, given Girls, and even though I fell off of that show, but in general, really liked the work she did. And she doesn't write this, of course, but just directing. And eventually got around to probably late in this run, like maybe after season 1 was wrapped up, I binged the show. And exactly like you mentioned, it definitely had, of course, having watched Euphoria, having watched Succession, it definitely did feel like a blend of those two things. And it also was very of the moment. We were in this point after the pandemic, or in the midst of the pandemic when season 1 happened, even though they filmed it beforehand. It's really like end of 2020, I think, when that came out. And it felt like the entire world economy, like even after the pandemic, like everything was like booming, even though the economy just seemed like it was on the very shaky ground. And you're like, it just feels like everything now in the economy and in culture in general is made up. And the show itself seemed to address that directly. And the creators of the show do come from that background. So, and I think the show continued to evolve in that direction. And season 2, like you mentioned, as soon as it became available, I watched that in real time. And season 3, I think I probably binged half the season and then binged at the end of the season. I don't think I was going week to week on Industry on season 3. But I have to say that I wasn't sure. Every season of the show, by the way, feels like it could have been the last season of the show. They probably didn't get an automatic renewal. I don't think they've gotten a renewal for this season again. So maybe that will be a good thing because of the way they wrap up their seasons. Because I have to say that season 3, even though once the show premiered, like probably within a week or two, HBO announced that they were renewing it for a 4th season. They didn't wait too long to make the showrunners wait. But of course, this is after the show had already aired. And the finale of that really did feel like it could be the end of this storyline. And
Absolutely.
And that's my critique of this episode so far, is that I didn't get into the new folks as much. I didn't really like the way the show starts out, but about halfway in, I start to gel with things again. But I did feel like I was very wrong-footed by the first 2 or 3 scenes of this episode, although I got better as it went along. But I didn't really connect with the new folks. And I have to say that the weird thing about this show in general is, what's his name? The guy who left, who is a breakout for this show.
Eric Tao, Ken Leung's character? Or
Eric.
or
Yeah, of course. Eric's great, but I actually was thinking of
Robert,
yes. So it's funny, like in season 1, I thought that that Robert was a weak character, like a one-dimensional character. So, but and then with season 2, he became very interesting to me, because it became like you were seeing that he was performing, and it is that whole thing about class that he was trying to break beyond, which of course is much more of a thing in England rather than in the US. Is there a real class structure in Australia, by the way?
No, I wouldn't say so. No, we like to think that we're all the same as everybody else, but there is a thing called the tall poppy syndrome. So if you think you're better than someone else, you'll get your head cut off pretty quickly. It's not like in America where you say, like, there's a quote in this episode where it's like, you tell your own story in America, or you tell your story, that's you. Whereas in Australia, if you think that you're better than anyone else, they'll chop you off at the knees pretty quickly to bring you back to the pack. Yeah, which is a positive and a big negative as well in this culture.
Yeah, what I actually find that I kind of like discovering a culture to some extent through entertainment. And I liked it with, of course, being introduced to this kind of investment banking world. And I've known people who work in investment banking, but I never talked to them about their jobs, to be honest. And it never seemed that interesting to me. I'm sure this is much sexier than the actual version of it. But also the class situation in the UK, where you see these kind of elements that there are these foreigners that are very rich and of course get entry to all these different levels of society, but then they're not really treated like one of the in group because they don't have the right credentials. And then which I think is very interesting, something we don't see in the US, obviously, but it's like a true caste system. And you see how that character, Richard, was that his name again?
Yes, Robert.
I'm sorry, Robert. That Robert is in that basically he has a chip on his shoulder to some extent because of this background. And then like how you see how people use that as to manipulate him, or to use him to lend him a helping hand. So it's all these signifiers that he represents. And was the moral center of the show. So when you see that of course, the actor himself left the show, and we see him at the end in California selling like hallucinogenic therapeuticals, which is something that's happening now. But you see how he kind of like escaped this world, and maybe going into a different version of it, but you really felt like good for him at the end. Like he's cut off all these toxic people. And I think that's where I felt wrong-footed here as the season begins. I don't know not only like what the shape of the show is, but I don't have anyone to root for, right? Harper, of course, gets to be like this completely, truly despicable character, and she has her own motivations for it, so she makes her compelling. But she's not someone you ever sympathize with, right? She's like always going to make the wrong decision in a way, and then hope that she can force it into being right. And Eric is like her, right? Like that's kind of and that works really well in the show. That's when the show really started clicking for me, was when they had their scenes together. All of a sudden, the show's working again for me. And but then like all these new people coming in, and this background story of these what do they call it? Tender? Like it's like basically a broker for financial transactions to anonymize money you give to for sex performers, like on a kind of an OnlyFans site. This is, of course, I think it seems to be setting up that this is going to be a big part of this season, but I just don't know who I'm supposed to be paying attention to at this point.
Interesting you say that. Yeah, I was shocked that the character of Robert is not coming back. What I loved about each series of this show is the fact that the final episode could have been a finale in each series, which I really, really adore because it's set up as a finale, but it could be a cliffhanger as well. And last season really did feel like a finale. People died, people left, like Robert, for better pastures.
You had a wedding,
married
everything,
off
right?
into their rich life that they'd always been destined for. And unlike you, I really enjoyed seeing new characters straight off the bat. They seem like they're actors from other TV shows, so they know the ropes. They can get straight into doing the performances that are necessary. And I was stoked because now Pierpoint is gone, right? So they're not in that set anymore. That was a big part of the first 3 seasons. So I reckon you could jump into this show having not watched anything and know who these characters are straight away, especially Harper and Eric. And I thought it's great to see Harper back front and center because last season she was really on the fringes, which let someone like Robert come through, let a guest actor who's now a major part of the cast, Kit Harington as Sir Henry Muck, let him come through and centered on Yasmin's story as well, which was pretty confronting last season with her relationship with her dad and then choosing Henry over Robert, which was epic. So yeah, I'm all about this episode, all about this season now. I think we're back to paying attention to Harper. They've dragged Eric back from retirement. Yes. He could not stand waiting for number 47 to play golf. The guy in the red hat, so funny. So yeah, all about him coming back, and yeah, I'm all about it. So yeah, it's unfortunate that you're not as excited about it as me, but yeah, this is a series that I can't wait to see week to week.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where they take it and if they can create a moral center to the show, and maybe that is what they've introduced with some of these new characters. Because once again, I did enjoy the episode, and I am excited to see what they do with it for sure. But and mostly based on, because I had the experience in watching the previous seasons where there were times of every season previously where I was a little bit didn't know where the show was headed. I'm like, what are they doing here right now? And then it brings me back in. So I have a lot of confidence in the film, the showrunners. This particular episode, and let's start breaking it down a little bit because I can touch how I just got wrong-footed right away. And I agree, by the way, with something you said, which is, in a way, all these shows, not only do they feel like they could have just ended on each one of those seasons, but you actually can jump into the show. If someone's listening to this and is curious to jump in, you actually can jump in directly into season 4, because this is almost going to be, we know it's going to be like a mini arc about this particular set of characters in the context of this bank that's trying to transition from being like a broker for gambling and porn sites, and then transition into being this guy, the Max Minghella character, has a huge, he wants to be bigger than like the biggest banks in the world. So
he's great. He
was fantastic. I totally agree. My favorite new character. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's from the Facebook movie, The Social Network, which I haven't seen for a while, and I think he's from Handmaid's Tale, which I never watched, but he has come in strong and also extremely, morally ambiguous. And his dialogue with Cal Penn as these founders of this new company, Tender, was just sparkling, I thought.
So in that first scene, by the way, so here's some of the new faces. And again, weird that this is where you start to show. Honestly, weird place to start to show for me, especially if you picture like people jumping in for the first time. We see Charlie Heaton from Stranger Things. He is addicted to alcohol. He's like doing shots before he even walks out the door, going to a club to meet up with obviously he's new to the show, and also meeting up with Kiernan Shipka, of course, Sally Draper. This is what's happened to Sally Draper now. He is approaching her on the dance floor, trying to make his move, but approaching her as an informant, like to meet clandestinely he thinks that she might be a whistleblower. That's what he does. But they end up hooking up instead and head home. And the conversation they have at the house, by the way, I'm not sure what she was going for with her description of her genitalia, but I'm not sure that by the imagery in my mind was what the writers were going for.
Well, talking about a moral center, perhaps he is the moral center because he didn't take the drugs that she offered him, and he didn't sleep with her, which is what she just expected. She was actually quite surprised she woke up with her jeans still buttoned up. Yeah. So maybe he's the man that we should be.
I like the fact that she made that offer and then just planned to pass out at that point.
Yeah. That happens, I think.
For sure. Especially in that condition.
It's just great that I just love how these people, they go from the bar, they easily go from the office to the bars to the nightclubs, and then just wake up without a hangover as if nothing's happened.
Yeah, it's funny, as I've been talking to you, when I was saying that we need some kind of direction to have someone either have a moral center or be corrupted or put themselves in danger trying to in the midst of all these vipers, that as I was saying that, I'm like, that probably is why we're opening on this journalist, because obviously he has his own weaknesses. We know he's an addict, an alcohol addict. But then beyond that, he's probably going to try to be a do-gooder, and he's probably going to get manipulated for sure. You think about what Harper is now intrigued by this opportunity, that he's almost certainly going to be manipulated by these people.
Yep, totally. Yep. I think that's where it's going for sure, especially as now he's got Harper's number towards the end.
And of course, we also find out, even though in this cold open, we have no idea who these people are, it turns out that she is actually the Kiernan Shipka character, whose character name is
Haley.
I think you're right.
And she's like the personal assistant or the executive secretary to the main man at this tender, this Max Minghella character.
Whitney, right? The Max Mandela character.
Whitney, yeah, which I didn't think was a man's name, but apparently it is.
Yeah, there's a author, Whitley Strieber, who writes all those horror novels. So that's another Whitney. Okay. And it turns out, and by the way, she might be in danger too. We find out that her previous, she replaced somebody who's disappeared. We don't know where they went. And I do worry that this might be one of the mysteries of the episode, is that something terrible has happened to that person, considering that we see her now like reluctantly trying to follow up or potentially being pursued by this journalist. She appears to have just emailed him back out of courtesy, didn't actually want to be a whistleblower at all. And that now we find out that she got this job on kind of something shady happened potentially to her predecessor. And now, yeah, we what's up with this guy always traveling to Africa, going on these trips, like daily or weekly trips to Africa? What's going on with this Max Minghella character? We know he has a interesting sexual appetite.
Oh, we certainly do. As soon as he said go into the wardrobe and check the bottom drawer, I did have an image about what she would find in that bottom drawer, and I was correct.
She likes what she sees, apparently.
Oh, so funny. But that's when this show is, you can't take it seriously. It is so hilarious, especially when it shows that hero shot of her standing in there with that giant black strap on. It is so funny. And the music is so super powerful. Come on. I just love this show. It's just hilarious.
And I presume the calendar in my mind is correct. She had sex with her coworker, or her underling, actually, that same day. It's just a very busy day for her.
That's Harper, isn't it? She's got a huge sexual appetite.
So Harper is now working at this fund where their prerogative is supposed to be shorting all the time. This is money she got from Otto, who's the godfather to the Kit Harington character, Henry Muck. and that they had this deal at the end. Like he's like saying, you got to go against whatever like the woke economists are trying to do, just undercut them always. And now, of course, things have changed politically, but that culture is changing. But at the same time, just shorting that when it's not a thing anymore is not really a policy. And she feels really frustrated because she thinks that shorting is still a good opportunity. But of course, now it might be that Otto doesn't really like who she's trying to short. This might be like things that he's more politically aligned with that she sees as shorts, and maybe that makes him look bad. And more importantly, he's now in the parliament or whatever it is and cozying up to the king. And it's like, you're rattling too many cages. You're making too much noise. And so she is very upset about this. And she ends up turning to the one person she always turns to. And that's the most fascinating relationship in this whole entire show, once again, is seeing Harper getting back together with Eric, where she has ruined this guy's life to a large extent. And here they are again working together.
And he's ruined hers as well over the seasons.
Of course.
Sorry, this Otto character, he was stunning. He only gets one scene, and the amount of stuff that he says, it's really of the moment. The fact that this DEI thing is no longer a thing, and he can call someone the R word today, and he might call them the same word tomorrow. Incredible. And he was a big part of the last season, and he's someone that you were suggesting has been born of such a high order, and he needs to keep that reputation, and he can't have Harper shorting these companies, these public utilities of which he's now supposed to represent. But yeah, Eric is very conveniently brought back into the fold super quickly because they know that Eric and Harper are the core of the show.
And of course, at the central point of this whole, it's interesting how they're already spinning out a bunch of, and it's hard to know what the details are going to coalesce, but it's all going to be around all around this one main, the tender company, which has made its billions, whatever it is, probably a pretty large organization, primarily by anonymizing these transactions of the kind of shady transactions, whether it's gambling, whether it's these fans like sites. I think it's called Siren. And the Max Minghella character, Whitney, actually fires Siren. So even though the CEO is actually Kal Penn, the Kal Penn character, Jonah, he seems to be calling all the shots, and Jonah just rides along. And Jonah seems to love not only the company that he has, that like living in this type of lifestyle. Like he like spends money at whorehouses, and he has, I shouldn't call it that. He calls at what would you call that? He hires sex workers, and he does drugs constantly, like even at work. And so he is very much indicative of what got the company to where it is now. But of course, Whitney wants to make it into something else. And simultaneously, there are all these moral watchdogs, same thing here in the US, on the right and the left, that are simultaneously trying to pass legislation to tamp down or age restrict a lot of these websites, which of course would be detrimental to the very business that's foundational to them. So he's simultaneously trying to get in, like Yasmin is trying to hook him up with this parliamentary figure. I don't even know who she is at this point, but importantly, very central to passing this bill. And simultaneously, we have the man on the street. What's his name? Rishi, who after the horrible, what happened
Rishi.
last season,
wow.
Rishi is now like working literally like a private detective, basically, but worse. He literally is hacking people's phones in the wild to get insider information and then selling that information to Harper. I definitely want to know what happened to Rishi between last season and this season. We have to find that out.
We will find that out because he had a standalone episode last season, which was very uncut gems of him, and everything went tits up for Rishi. My goodness. And now he's without a wife, and I'm not sure what's happened to his child. And he is just
exactly. Where's his child right now?
Stealing people's phone, stealing people's passwords, and feeding Harper just dodgy information. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, and that's the central focus of this whole thing. Of course, working with Harper, Eric looks like he's back in the fold now. And Sweet Pea Golightly, what an incredible character name, by the way. Sweet Pea's working. And apparently she was had an OnlyFans account in last season. So I assume that's still ongoing. So, of course, she maybe gets some of her money from via Tender.
Yes, and I feel like some of her cover has been blown recently with that OnlyFans. So I think a lot of people are a bit clued into that. Just I've got a note. I actually took notes on this episode. I just love
Yeah,
Cal Penn. Cal Penn. I think he quit acting for a while, and he did work in politics.
he was in the
So
Obama administration, yeah, for a while.
yeah, so he's got a bit of an inside information on how to behave in these kind of political circles. But I did love how he ordered a vodka, bone dry, cold as space.
Called this space, yeah. Some of the dialogue is really great. Some of
Yeah,
it's so
awesome.
inside baseball that I don't even know what they're talking about, which happens a lot with the show. But you don't. I don't want to tell people as well if they're intimidated by the show for that. So much, especially in season one, where they're not talking only about being an investment banker, but they're talking about like what a year one can do and can't do, and how'd you put that deal through. You never go over your whoever is your tender for your class in the like. There's so much like just the way that they're making the deals, or whether one side of the house can make a deal if they know something that the other side of the house obviously knows, which of course has always been the problem, that there's so much insider trading even within a certain the bank itself, because you're managing the books on one side and you're shorting them on the other side. It just seems like such a incestuous relationship. And but all that stuff is so technical. But like I said, I think the show does a great job up until this point of like, that's okay if you don't get it, because you get it.
Yeah,
Like you don't get it in
yeah.
the moment, but you get the vibe. You're like, I know why they're doing this is wrong, even though I don't know the technical details of exactly why it's wrong.
You're right. That's the one thing that's going to put off a casual viewer. They're like, I don't understand what they're talking about. And that's okay. Neither do I. Neither do the
Right.
actors, right?
Right. Exactly.
People are
Exactly.
not supposed to understand this level of detail, but you just go through it and you'll get the gist towards the end.
I also think that's the point of the show to some extent. I got to tell you that, like, when you're like, this seems
Yeah.
so, like, this is just morally wrong, and then there's all these arbitrary hoops in the way. I think the show, to some extent, is saying, like, yes, that's right. It is all like obviously wrong. Like that's all you got it. Like don't get distracted by the jargon. Like, and I think that becomes very clear over time as well. So another key points here, of course. Oh, I did want to shout out, of course, that the other coworker, of course, he has Sweet Pea is one of her coworkers, as well as the
Oh,
character's
new
name is
guys. Yeah.
Corbina,
Yeah.
but
So,
this is Tohib Jamo from Ted Lasso in a very different type
yes.
of role.
Yeah. Yeah, he's great. He's straight into that world, isn't he? He's got the lingo and he's got the sexual desire as well that you need, and he's willing to do whatever is asked of him.
In my notes, I wrote down that this is someone who works under her, under Harper, or maybe over her, depends on her mood. Of course, the highlight of everything that happens in the office is, first of all, I don't understand why the email she sent out was so inflammatory. That's one of the things where I don't understand the details of it, because I'm like, aren't they shorting? I don't understand why that was such a controversial thing for her to say. But
Well,
of course,
I think the controversial thing was she locked everybody's money. She was like, you can't take your money out now. If you disagree with our position, that's too bad. But she's locked the account. That's what I took it as.
oh, that's a good point. Yes, yes, I didn't think of that. I just assumed the money's invested anyway, but I guess, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
And I think Eric says you can't lock people's accounts at 30 years of age. Like you can do that once in your career when you're very, very experienced.
When it's your own money, right, that you're investing. She's not the owner of that. Like, most of the money of that fund is not hers.
Absolutely.
And of course, this is leads this character James Ashford to show up at the. We've only seen like once or twice ever on the show before. I remember him being very smarmy, and with the being aware early on last season that the Kit Harington business was probably going to fall on its face. But he comes into her office and starts glitching out and goes headfirst into this glass table.
I had to look up that word, Sesquipedalian.
I did too. I think everybody looked it up today. Which, what does it mean again? It means like overly complicated, right? Something like that.
Yeah, it's like a lover of long words or something like that. Yeah.
No wonder it shorted him out. It's like the most elaborate word for the very thing it represents.
Oh, so it's so amazing that and yeah, like it wasn't even a real stroke, and just the image of him falling to the table, And the idea that Harper has had sex with him, which I can't remember that happening, but of course she has sex with all her clients and all her workmates whenever she
Right.
wants.
Not Eric. I never want them to have sex with each other, by the way. Thank God that hasn't happened yet.
That will never happen.
I always remember that scene where Richie sexually assaults her basically in the bathroom and he apologizes afterwards and goes, sorry, I had to get the poison out. And she goes, I understand.
That was on his wedding night too, wasn't it?
On his wedding. Yes, exactly. Had to get the poison out. Okay. Okay.
Wow.
Any other, there's so much witty dialogue here. I liked when Cal Penn's character Jonah is saying that they shouldn't try to pivot to the bank because they have a good thing going and jerking off is a recession proof.
Yeah. Even though a bit earlier on, his coworker was talking about not ejaculating because that keeps you looking younger. And he's like, no
right.
fat, no cat. I think it's also interesting, this show, and like not only does it play with class, is it also plays with race as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And there is a lot of references to the girl that Star was talking about, her black boyfriend. You've got Harper strapping on the black sex toy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's talking about the morals of supporting payments for these sex companies, but also the show is fetishizing sex workers and black people as well. It's just all such a mix that's thrown in there and that you can get your own meanings out of, and it's meant to be humorous as well as confronting, which I enjoy.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you raise, because exactly of that. When you see in the UK, you have Robert as this representation of, he shows up and he's handsome and he's good looking and he takes everybody out and parties with everybody and everybody likes to be around him, but they're like, but you're not the right class. So they're kind of like, you can only go so far. And he butts against that. And I think it's very interesting that the Americans, you're absolutely spot on, that Harper and Eric both have this chip on their shoulders because they have come up in that world where they went to an elite school, and Harper dropped out of school, by the way. We find that out over time. But Eric has the same or similar experience in his past, where his whole entire time he didn't fit in, right, culturally, where he was. So he always has this chip on his shoulder that he has to always be striving or undermining whoever's ahead of him, because it's got that same kind of fixation. And once again, that's what was compelling. And it's only one episode in, so I'm not saying it won't happen, but that Robert was so important to that because he was someone that you could sympathize with. And even when he made a wrong decision, even when he was trying to live up to that type of toxic culture, you were in his shoes, right? And we don't have that now. We have like just nothing but you think about Richie, and not that this is the entire show, but imagine a show that was just Eric and Harper and Richie, right? It's just like, that is too toxic, I think, a mix. Of course. Well, and one thing before we wrap, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, that's all right.
I was going to say one more thing before we get to the very end of the episode. Of course, we have dodged, she isn't all over the show in this particular episode, but of course she's going to be essential to the rest of the season, is Yasmin, right? And of course, she's now married to Henry Muck, who we knew he's like a depressive, and apparently he's having some kind of depressive episode already. And pretty incredible that we know right away, by the way, when she's like, oh yeah, he's got like a stomach bug or something. We're like, nope, he's just moping around the house. And we see that explicitly, right? He's like playing some funeral dirge while he's crushing drugs on the piano keys.
Well, Lady Yasmin now, I think
yes,
she's like,
of course.
She's the kingmaker or the queenmaker, just because now she has the power to set the table, literally set the table of who is going to sit next to who at her parties, which will be able to, dictate the next round of British law and who of these companies rises to the top. Yeah, fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, she's making all these introductions. So she really is this nexus point. Although, did you see the trailer for the season trailer that came on at the end?
Yes, I did.
If you see that,
no. Yeah, maybe I saw it before. Yeah.
It's just that if you see the trailer for the season, it looks like her and Harper are at it again. And that's pretty messed up because like Yasmin has inherited her dad's wealth because he died in the previous season. spoilers if you haven't seen that, but I guess why would you be listening this far into the episode if you weren't aware of that, that he had died. So now she's inherited that. But of course, she's also inherited all the scandals with the business. So now she has money, but she also has all these headaches. But now she has this nobility attached to her name as well. So it's really, she's in a very powerful position, like you mentioned. But one thing I think is BS here, because I don't know how much time has passed, but it seems to be just, I think they actually say it, it's like a year or a year and a half since last season. I think it's around what they shouted out there, if I remember correctly. And the Whitney character is like Yasmin's a close personal friend of mine. I'm like, wasn't she just working a desk a year ago? Like, how is he close personal friends with her?
Yeah, well, she was always in that society. She was always high society. She always knew a lot of people thanks to her connections. I assume that all her family money is tied up in NDAs to support
That's true.
all her father's lovers and the people that he sexually assaulted. So that now that she's finally got her own money, which is half of Sir Henry Muck's money, so that's the main reason why she married him, was to get the money along with the power. Yeah, she's gonna be, of course, the main character coming to the rest of the season. I can't wait to see it. Did you note all the Barry Lyndon music at the end?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And the slow Stanley Kubrick zoom outs. Yeah, so Barry Lyndon is a movie about someone from a lower class trying to penetrate the upper class. So yeah, I thought it was very obvious references there, which I just really enjoyed.
They love Kubrick, yeah, and those last shots are very Kubrick-like for sure.
As he's playing the harpsichord, which really does sound like that type of music. Yeah, so funny.
I got to track down that version of the song. That's definitely not the version from the previous versions I've heard. They played I think I think Kubrick used that in Clockwork Orange as well. And they played the Clockwork Orange version in Mobland when we saw Mobland, the funeral there. But this version I think it's been remixed. This is one of the recent DJ mixes of that song. But I ought to track it down if it's available.
Well, the music is on point from this kind of classical Baroque way to the start, where they're mixing Prodigy Firestarter in the club scenes. There was a lot of music that's similar to that Nine Inch Nails, like the Tron kind of music, or that Trent Reznor soundtrack style. That's in there as well, which is really enjoyable. The music gets me going in this show for sure.
Oh, that's one of the biggest things that got me going. I was telling my wife, this is one of the series that I have like Shazammed the most because I always just music playing constantly, and it's very vibey, and I like very vibey music just to play in the background. Like if I'm not like focused on it, just to listen to it in the background or to engage with it as well. But it's just something I really enjoy, and I like the vibes of the soundtrack. But the composer himself, very much the actual soundtrack, original music from industry, is also very synthy, very that kind of, what do they call it? Synth wave or whatever they call it. It's a very vibey sound. And of course, the music, the songs they bring in really fit that kind of mood as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm massively looking forward to the rest of this season. I'm sorry that you're not as excited about it as I am, but we'll see. We'll see which characters come to the fore.
And, I got for me, that first opening scene, I'm like, why are we starting here? And it's funny because you need to have people pull off being very heightened and crazy on this show. And I felt like the Charlie Heaton and Kiernan Shipka in that scene where she yells at him and kicks him out of the house. It was like they're not at the right tone yet for this show. And I was like, oh, didn't really work for me. And then all of a sudden Harper's in that meeting room and she's in her suit, which is very stylish, of course. But like, how did she get there? I thought she was supposed to be in New York. I just felt like they were throwing a lot of things at me, throwing new characters at me. And I was just like, oh man, I don't know if this is really working for me. And then of course, maybe that's indicative of something about the show as well, that the show isn't working until Eric's back on the scene. And then Eric and Harper, the performers too, just seeing Mahala in the role, really not connecting the way she has in the past for me. And then she's on the phone with Eric, even before they're in the same room together, just on the phone with Eric. And they are like locked in. And I was just like, okay, this is what I like in this show, right? And so now I'm on board. Very curious to see when Kit Harington shows up next week and see what's happening with Yasmin and in their marriage as well, with him
I
like
think
probably chronically depressed.
it's a big Kit Harington episode, I've been told, next week. But I do love, I read something that it's like Mia Hala and Eric and Ken Leung, they've finally found the person they're supposed to act with.
Yeah.
And so that's why every scene between them is so electric because that's what they're supposed to be. Yeah, so good. But they both want their name on the door for their new company that they are supposedly starting.
And one other thing that makes me feel maybe more compelled for next week and weeks beyond, these episodes are not only written by the showrunners, Mickey Down and Conrad Kay, but also directed by them. And I think this is only the third episode they've ever directed of the series. And I have to say, including the season finale last year, and even though I thought that was a very strong episode, I didn't think the direction was the best part about it. Anyway, like I think these guys are great writers, so I don't want to insult them, if not that they're ever going to listen to this podcast anyway. But I don't know if I don't think they're the best at directing their own material. And that's okay. You don't have to be great at everything. So I'm curious to see, like, once we get other directors, some of the directors that have directed some of my favorite episodes of the show, and they come back on board, if the show feels a little bit different. So that might be part of what I'm bumping up against. Just my personal taste.
That's a really good thought. Do they write all the episodes of the seasons? Because they are great writers, and I just love the dialogue. And you're correct. So the episodes that they've directed have been a bit more fan servicey and a little bit more shocking, rather than the deep drama that you need to keep this show going for a full season.
And like I said before, I don't mean that as a ding against them, because
no, absolutely not.
Sometimes you need someone to write something, and then you need someone else to interpret that and get the real juice out of it, as opposed to you wrote it and then you have a certain expectation of really presenting the dialogue in a certain way, and you're really focused on that rather than really focusing on the vibes and focusing on, like, how do I make this scene hit as hard as possible, rather than just making another scene in the script when you love you love your entire script. You wrote the thing, right? So it's like sometimes you need someone to interpret, right? It's like a song that the first time it was performed by the original performer, really good. And then you hear like a cover of it, and you're like, wow, this cover you took something, you got something else out of this cover that I didn't see in the original version. And anyway, so maybe that's part of what I'm bumping up against here. But yeah, I'm still obviously committed to the show. And if nothing else, just based on the history of it, it's been 80 to 90% of these episodes I have loved in the past. So I assume it's going to have a similar batting average this year as well. And the back half of this episode, I love the whole back half of this episode, by the way.
Yeah, great. Yeah. It seems like it's getting more of an audience. It's getting a lot. People were not on board with season one. They just didn't see it, or they didn't identify it as a show that people should watch. But now it feels like people are well on board, and it'd be interesting to see if we identify any directors of this season that are of note, whether they've attracted different people to the material. But yeah, I think it's pretty strong. So hopefully you get on board soon, Victor.
I'm sure I'll be on board. And by the way, even if it doesn't have to be the best season of this show for me to still be very interested in it. Yeah, so very curious to see what happens next. Oh, as far as the popularity of the show, it's weird. I feel like this show is not that popular. It definitely was a niche, and then I guess it grew over time. It's still not a really big hit, but especially like this season coming up, it just felt like everybody's talking about industry coming back. But so I'm very curious to see what would the ratings be once this, and curious to see what our downloads will be. See if anybody shows up for this. But I'm very curious to hear how it goes. So
yeah, well, it's a challenging task to jump into a season 4 if you have not caught up with the first 3 seasons. But I will say that this is the type of show where you can just jump in and let's have fun.
My wife was like, "Oh, I should catch up on that too before you start talking about it." I'm like, 3 seasons. She's like, "Oh, never mind." Not gonna happen.
I had the exact same conversation. Yeah. She's like, that's a lot of TV to watch. I'm like, it's worth it.
That's a lot to watch.
I'll watch it with you.
Yeah. I might do a rewatch. We're going to knock out Drops of God soon. It's only a few more episodes. And then maybe we will watch Industry from the beginning while I'm covering this, and maybe it'll all come together at the end. Maybe I'll pick up some additional nuggets there if I do rewatch. On top of all the hundreds of other things that are going to be dropping this month. It's such a crazy month, by the way, like just all the things I just mentioned to you. And then I didn't even talk about the new TV shows that are premiering next week. You have the new Game of Thrones spinoff. You have that new Ryan Murphy Beauty episode. Have you seen the trailer for that, by the way?
I haven't yet, no.
Everyone's saying it's like what's that? Your number one movie last year, and I forget what it's called.
Oh, it's Substance.
The Substance. They're like, yeah, this is the Substance on TV. And I was just like, okay, well, that's something to sell it, I guess. But yeah, so that's coming next week too. It's just insane how much stuff is coming up. But and now like I mentioned, we have the football playoffs are going on, and the NBA is in full swing right now. There are so many distractions, and all these streamers are like, let's premiere all our shows this month. Sure, that's a good idea.
Interesting. Yeah, well, I'm still catching up on these movies that for some reason, they take a while to get to Australia from America. These late December, early Jan releases are finally coming through. So I'm still catching up on that. The cricket is basically almost finished. So there's no sport here to distract me. So I can just focus on films and TV from now.
And no other choice is, by the way, it's doing gangbusters business here in the US, but it's still only a limited release, but it's still already made a lot of money, even though it's just expanding now. The reason I saw it so early is because I saw it at a film festival. I saw it at the Montclair Film Festival. So, and by the way, that was, I could have seen Train Dreams at the festival, and I probably should have tried to see that as well, because I think it would have been great to see that on a big screen, considering how beautiful it was. But I was like, okay, if I don't see Train Dreams today, I will see Train Dreams on Netflix in a month. If I don't see No Other Choice, it's not going to be wide until the middle of January. So I'm like, this is the one I'm watching. I get to see it way ahead of time. So
yeah, well, there's slim pickings for No Other Choice. I've got the day off on Friday, so I'm going to check it out. But there was only one cinema that was showing it, which is a bit bizarre. Sentimental Value opened last week, so I haven't got to see that yet. And then Marty Supreme, I think, is next week. Yeah, so
Marty Supreme has been wide here. That one never went platform, so that was a wide right away. So
yeah. Why are we getting it so late? I don't know.
I had a movie you might want to check out. I think it's playing, by the way, this week or next week at a film festival in your neck of the woods. It's called Syrah. Have you heard about this film?
Yeah, it's on my list to watch. Is it Iranian or something?
It is a French film, but it's shot in Morocco. And the reason I thought you might be into it is because it starts off, there's some apocalyptic event going on that is unexplained, but all these people have gathered in the desert for a rave. So there's a lot of rave music playing. So another film that is, obviously, the desert footage is really great. I've heard like there's letterbox reviews saying that this is actually a prequel to the first Mad Max movie. I'm like, that's actually not a bad comp by the way, not that it feels like a Mad Max movie, like action wise, but I'm like, yeah, I could see like 10 years from now, the first Mad Max movie happens. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. So that is an interesting film, but that's a bit of a downer too, I got to tell you. And it's a little bit, that's definitely not a mainstream film to say the least, but I thought you might dig it for all the rave music.
Yeah, I must have seen it on someone's best of list because I have written it down as one to watch. Talk about a downer. I saw Beau Is Afraid last week. Just because it's been sitting there waiting for me to watch for ages, and I finally did it because I had 3 hours by myself. And yeah, I'm still processing that film. I think it's a masterpiece, but I think it's also completely unwatchable.
Anybody who's here just for the industry conversation, drop out right now, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening. But I got to talk to you about Beau Is Afraid because I've been wanting to talk about this for so long. I can't agree more with you about Beau Is Afraid. I dreaded watching that. I didn't see it in theaters. I watched it when it was available for streaming on Canopy or one of those library apps. And then I was like, I'm going to have to watch this in little chunks. And instead, I watched all 3 hours all the way through. It is, like you said, a masterpiece. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. I did not get bored. I did not tune out. And I thought that the middle of the movie, that sequence, spoilers here for Beau Is Afraid, by the way. Once again, drop out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I don't think the spoilers. You can't have spoilers, can you?
You can't spoil this thing, but it's like the sequence when he is at that performance and he sees like his alternate version of his life. It was not only like utterly hypnotic, it was so emotionally powerful to me for some reason. I don't even understand. Just like as pure cinema, it worked like incredibly. I didn't like the ending. I didn't like the ending of the film. It's definitely the weakest part of the film. But I also was blown away by the fact that this was like Ari Aster did not want to make Hereditary his first film, but then they wouldn't greenlight any of the scripts he had. So he reworked some of his material to be Hereditary. And as I was watching this movie, I'm like, this is probably the script he wanted to make that turned into Hereditary. You have the giant A-frame house. You have the manipulative mother. You have decapitations. You have the mystery. What's in the attic? There's like all these motifs that copy from Hereditary. And I'm like, well, in a way, I'm like, well, thank God someone forced him to write Hereditary. He would have no career right now.
He would be disappeared if this was his first film. There is absolutely no way anyone would trust him again. I mean, that Children of the Forest bit in the middle was just so starkly beautiful.
Yep.
But I love the first third of the film, that whole, when you understand that this is the way he sees the world is not necessarily like this, but for someone with his conditions and his neuroses, he sees the world like everybody is out to attack him. I thought was just incredible world building, and just and also stunning performance by Joaquin Phoenix. Ari Aster must hate this guy for what he put him through in this, and Eddington. My God, they must be best friends or just mortal enemies. It was amazing.
Everything and all the filmmaking in that movie is absolutely jaw-dropping. I think all the time about when the neighbor passes the note under the desk, the door frame, and it like slips out and like spins out and lands right where he is across the entire house. It like spins over to exactly where he is. And it's open so he can read it. And I was just like, how do you do that? It's like such an incredible, it's so beautiful. It's such a silly thing, but I always think about that. I'm just like, that is like the of all the incredible shots of that movie, I'm like, that's the most impressive one for me. But it's and just the fact that he would spend, they spent a lot of money on that movie. Eddington is much cheaper than that film, about half as much. Of course, no one's ever going to give him that budget again after what happened with that movie. And of course, Eddington's a pretty safe bet with all the stars in it. You figure it didn't do well in theaters, Eddington, that is. But you know that once it comes out on HBO and home video, it'll make its money back just because it has so many celebrities and stuff in it. But the crazy thing that A24, of course, they had made money on those first two pictures, but that they would even greenlight Beau Is Afraid, which is like the least commercially viable film ever made, possibly.
It totally is. Just the fact, I love watching films, but I took a good 6 months to work myself up to watch this. Parker Posey is just so good great in this. And also Patti LuPone is incredible as well. I think she's like a theatre actor. She was really great. But yeah, I love seeing Parker Posey. Very different to her White Lotus role.
Oh, yes, very. And he actually kills her, right? It turns out that he should have.
Shocking.
Yeah, when he ends up in the attic though with the giant penis monster, I'm like, I don't know. And that I guess that was his dad. I don't know what was going on there. So
look, I'm still processing this. Yeah, it is very disturbing to me.
I do want to talk about that opening sequence. Someone said something. I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and I thought we came to this understanding. We're just talking about like our parents sitting around all day watching Fox News, and my dad literally comes in. He just watches Fox News all day, and he comes in every day, and he's like, "Here's the next thing that could kill you," or like, "Don't let the kids go on this app," or don't, or 5G. I heard 5G. The Chinese are listening to you if you have a 5G phone. It was like every paranoid conspiracy every single day, and they're just feeding this into their minds. And when I saw the first hour of the film, I'm like, this is what my relatives and friends that I know that constantly watch Fox News or just even the local news, which is always so sensationalistic, like that first hour of the film, that's what they think is actually happening outside. That's how they think
Exactly.
there's like a psycho killer stabbing people. Like literally, if you try to cross the street to go to the CVS, you have to fight off a psycho killer who's stabbing everybody in the street. I also like that the Latino people who hang out in the neighborhood, they just stand on the corner all day long and they just sing. They dance. They have these coordinated dances. They're just dancing all the time.
Oh, and just when you leave the house to go on a holiday, I'm always the person that jumps in at the last minute because I've forgotten something or think I've forgotten something important where it's not important. And then you have the stress where that you go back out, your bags are gone, the key in the door is
Oh
gone.
my God, yes.
Your whole holiday is ruined because you've catastrophized this thing. Yeah. Oh, so funny.
Oh my God, when he's afraid of like he doesn't have any water to drink with his pills. Oh my God, when he's in the bathtub and that guy's propped up above him, that is one of the funniest sight gags of all times.
Oh my God, that guy, he must have been there for ages.
Oh my God, that film is absolutely bonkers. And it's so weird. Like once again, I only gave it like 3 stars, by the way. But I was so impressed with it, even though I gave it only a modest, because it's like, how do I recommend this movie to anybody? And obviously, it's so self-indulgent. Like it's very hard to be a full-throated endorsement of it, as opposed to Eddington, which I think it's intentionally trying to rub you the wrong way, but it's not self-indulgent, I don't think. And this film is obviously just his own neuroses put on screen. He's spending all this money,
Yes.
but like I said, but there's moments in it that are utterly mesmerizing, like such incredible filmmaking. So I can't discount the film completely. And hopefully I'm just like, hey, he has exercised whatever this is. And I hope he can start making films that are a little more mainstream. Just, I mean, I like that. Be as edgy as you want, but let's give some people some basic plot hooks to get you through the film, for God's sakes. A 3-hour film, no less, for God's sakes.
Oh yeah, it was a full 3 hours. It was a long film and it was a
3
long
hours.
journey that needed to happen for this guy to get to where he was at the end. And the film never stopped ending. It just had that final shot of people leaving the stadium while the credits were rolling. I think I had to turn it off. It just didn't turn off. It didn't stop this film. I think it's still going.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's daring you. I thought that when I was watching it, I'm like, it's daring you to turn it off during the credits because it's like, hey, maybe there's another hour of this. Who knows?
So I think it's incredible that an artist can do this type of work, but surely he could have made an actual film out of what he's done, an actual palatable film. But yeah, full credit to the guy to just go all out. But I don't want to see another one like that, please.
Exactly. Yeah. But like I said, it feels like just a gag, like a trick he's pulled off by getting people to pay for this and get Joaquin Phoenix to be in it, and it doesn't feel like it's supposed to be taken seriously. But then I think you are supposed to take it seriously. So like I said, and hey, credit to him for it's never boring to watch. It's pretty fascinating piece of work. So
Joaquin Phoenix, he must be one of the best actors working today because the amount of pain that he went through, it's just amazing. He was so present for every one of those shots, and he's in the whole film.
Yeah, I did start to turn on the film when we get to the end. Not that it's bad filmmaking, and not that it's like the revelation that all the conspiracies he believed from the very beginning, the house he was living in, was full spoilers here, by the way, but the house he was living in was actually owned by this corporation that his mother ran. His mother's not actually dead. She's been manipulating him all at every turn. The employees of the what's his name? Nathan.
Oh, Nathan Lane. Yeah.
Nathan Lane is one of the employees when you see like all the employees on the wall. So everybody we saw was worked for the corporation. All of this, like his whole entire life, has been like a play that's been presented by him to be manipulated by his mother. So Ari Aster, think about every film he's made. He may have problems with his mom, but maybe that's what this is about. But it's that part of it is crazy. But then all the craziness in the attic and the other brother who comes swinging in on with his machine gun and everything. It just goes so crazy at the end. But it's like it becomes like some of the stuff that happens at the end could be right out of a Naked Gun movie, but it's in the middle of this pretty grim. What do you call this thing? It's not a horror movie. It's I don't know what genre is this.
Oh, God knows. It's definitely horrible. Just things just annoyed me in this. Like right at the end where he's in the motorboat and the motor just would not stop turning off. It just kept rumbling and rumbling and rumbling. I'm just like, these things are deliberately there to intensify your experience of this film. Yeah, it's shocking. Yeah.
I've never gone back to it, but I
genre it
probably would want to rewatch probably the first three sections, right? Like the section with him in the city is hilarious. And anxiety inducing as well. The sequence where he gets adopted by that other family, not as good, but still interesting. The Nathan Lane section. But then, of course, I would just watch that part where he's lost in the woods and he comes upon that commune. I would just watch that section in and of itself. It's really powerful stuff. So maybe I'll go back and just watch part of the movie again.
I totally agree with you because that middle section was very different. It actually was a completely separate movie and took you out of what he was living in, and it showed an idealized version of his life, which is what I really wanted to see for him. And it was stylistically very different as well. So yeah, it could work as a little short film to watch by itself. Yeah, I enjoyed Amy Ryan and Nathan Lane in that dysfunctional family.
Yeah.
How's it when he got the remote and he could fast forward the security camera
yes.
to actually see what's gonna happen?
Yes, yes. How crazy was that? Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that was really cool.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. It's a unique film for sure. So if you've ever been curious to check it out, it's worth checking out. But then once again, I don't know if I honestly can't recommend it to anybody. Like that's why I wanted to talk to you about it. You happened to watch it, so I'm like, oh, let's talk about it. Because if someone says, should I watch it? I'm like, probably not. Unless you love Ari stuff. If you are 100% vibing on Ari stuff, I'm not going to guarantee you're going to like this, but there'll definitely be stuff in it that you're going to like. So that's the only people I would recommend this to. I recommended Begonia to a couple recently, one of our best friends, and the wife was like, I love this weird shit. And the husband was like, I don't know if I can watch this thing. That's not really my thing. So I don't know if, and like, I can only imagine someone like that being like, hey, watch Beau Is Afraid. Imagine recommending that to like a mainstream audience. Go check out Beau Is Afraid. That's not gonna happen.
Well, Begonia is a very straight thriller compared to that.
Absolutely. It's the totally mainstream compared to Beau Is Afraid for sure.
But man, I'm a massive fan of Midsummer. I've seen it 3 or 4 times. I love every frame of that film. So I really needed to see Beau Is Afraid just to be a completist. And I really loved Eddington. I think I've seen it 3 times this year. I loved Eddington. So now that I've seen that, I need to go back and see Hereditary, which I've only seen once. So I'm going to see that. And then I'm not sure if he's done anything else. And I'm not sure what he's going to do.
That's it. We only have the 4 so far. But I'm sure he's got something
whatever
on the
he's
way.
doing next. Yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I'm also a big fan of his production company. All his films that he's produced, he's bringing up really interesting filmmakers and got a bunch of... That's part of the reason I think he gets to make the movies he makes is because he's also bringing all this new talent to A24. And I'm very curious to see... I mean, he produced Begonia, just to name one. But it's interesting to bring this talent, people who have kind of like-minded, more experimental filmmakers, and bringing them into the fold at A24. So that as long as he keeps attracting that new talent... I think that is going to keep him flush. Although even A24 was like, how much do you need for Eddington? Can you shave $10 million off of that?
Do you know how much Eddington cost to make? And do you know how much Beau Is Afraid cost?
I do. Eddington cost 24, I think it was.
Oh, wow.
And that's about what it made around the world, which isn't break even because of distribution and costs like that. But like I said, I'm sure it pre-sold for streaming, and they probably pre-sold most of the rights beyond theatrical, which probably covered the budget right away. But Beau cost like $45 million, something like that. And including the release costs, it's like $60 million. And I think it made like 7.
Yeah.
It's not going to make any money. So
that's too much.
For sure.
Oh, that's funny. Well, I'm not sure if you want to keep this conversation with the industry conversation. Maybe this is a Patreon. This is a fans only conversation.
You know what? I'm going to keep it on the episode, but I assumed everybody who will ducked out when we wrapped up the
Everybody's
industry
ducked out.
conversation. Yeah. I'm very curious to see. I'll look at the playthrough and see how many people make it this far. I have a feeling it's a very, very small percentage of our listeners.
Well, those of you that haven't ducked out, and if you haven't seen Beau Is Afraid, you need to put that next on your list and tell us about
it. Yeah, please do. And if you and don't unsubscribe. We promise we'll do better next time with our recommendations.
But yeah, tell us about it. We want to hear the psychos.
Now my wife is printing something out while I'm recording. All right, once it's all right, well, I'll just wrap up the conversation. Hopefully the noise isn't too bad. That's another indication that we should wrap up the conversation.
Yep, sounds good. All right, it's been good. I'll see you next week for
can't wait for the next episode, and we'll touch base next week. Oh, and maybe talk about Bone Temple. That'll be our addendum here in the next episode.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll see if I can manage to see it.
All right, thanks a lot, Darren. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Victor. Cheers, mate. Bye.